Commander Kim stood at the bridge of the ES Thunderbolt, his broad shoulders straight as he watched the stars through the main viewport. The ship's lights reflected off his dark uniform, highlighting the Earth Fleet insignia on his chest. After 15 years of service, he still felt pride every time he took his position on the bridge. "Commander, all diplomatic packages are ready for transmission," Lieutenant Sunmai reported from her station. Her fingers moved quickly across the control panel, preparing for their meeting with the Raxian delegation. Duha nodded, his mind briefly wandering to his wife, Jia, who was working in the science lab 2 decks below. She had joined this mission to study alien biology, and her presence made the long space journeys feel like home. "Keep our shields at standard strength," Duha ordered. "We don't want to appear hostile during a peace mission." The crew acknowledged his command, unaware that this routine day would soon turn into a nightmare. The first blast caught them completely by surprise. Red warning lights flooded the bridge as the ship rocked violently. Duha grabbed his command chair to stay upright, his muscles, developed under Earth's heavy gravity, easily handling the sudden movement. "Multiple Raxian warships decloaking," Sunli shouted, her voice steady despite the chaos. "They're using illegal stealth technology, sir." Duha's training kicked in instantly. "Battle stations, raise shields to maximum. Get me a damage report." The second blast hit harder than the first. The shield indicators dropped dangerously low as 3 Raxian battlecruisers emerged from their cloaking fields, their weapons already charging for another volley. "Sir, they're targeting our civilian sections." The tactical officer's voice cracked with disbelief. "The science labs." Duha's blood ran cold. "Jia," he whispered, before snapping back to command mode. "Evasive maneuvers. Return fire. Get our people out of those sections." The Thunderbolt's engines roared as they tried to put distance between themselves and their attackers. But the Raxians had planned this well. Too well. The third blast tore through the weakened shields and ripped into the science section. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut throughout the ship as warning sirens screamed through every corridor. "Commander," it was the chief medical officer on the comm. "We have multiple casualties in the science lab." "Sir, I'm sorry." "Jia." She didn't make it. The bridge fell silent. Everyone turned to look at their commander, expecting an outburst of grief or rage. Instead, they witnessed something far more terrifying. Duha Kim stood perfectly still, his face calm as stone. When he spoke, his voice was quiet but clear. "Send out a distress call to Earth Command. Log everything. Record every detail of this attack." He turned to face his crew, and they saw something in his eyes that made even the bravest among them shiver. "They chose to attack a diplomatic mission," he continued. "They chose to target civilians. They chose to kill my wife." Each word was measured, precise. But their greatest mistake was not understanding what it means to fight someone from Earth. The Raxian ships continued their approach, clearly expecting the Earth vessel to surrender or flee. They had studied human technology, but had never faced a human commander in actual combat. They didn't understand that humans had evolved on a world that tried to kill them every day. That Earth's gravity had made them stronger, faster, and more resilient than most species in the galaxy. "Tactical, give me a firing solution on their lid ship's engine section," Duha ordered. "Communications, prepare to broadcast on all frequencies." His fingers tightened on his command chair, the metal creaking under his earthborn strength. "Sir," Sunlight called out, "they're sending a message. Put it through." The alien commander's face appeared on the main screen, mandibles clicking in what the crew recognized as amusement. "Commander Kim," the Raxian spoke in accented standard, "your ship is outmatched. Surrender now, and we will spare your remaining crew." Duha looked at the alien commander, and his lips curved into a slight smile that never reached his eyes. "You should have studied Earth's history before starting this fight," he said quietly. "You should have learned why they call us Deathworlders." He cut the transmission with a gesture and turned to his crew. "Battle stations, Today, we show them why you should never target a Deathworlder's family. The Thunderbolt's weapons powered up as Do-ha Kim prepared for a fight that would become legendary across the galaxy. The Raxians were about to learn that they hadn't trapped a prey animal. They had cornered an Earth predator. The Raxian commander Hansol watched with growing unease as the Earth ship refused to fall. His mandibles clicked nervously as he studied the damage reports. The human vessel should have surrendered by now, yet it remained defiant. Send another message to their commander, Hansol ordered his communications officer. Let's see how brave he is after losing his mate. On the EFS Thunderbolt, Do-ha sat in his command chair, his posture relaxed despite the battle damage around him. Emergency repairs were underway, and his crew worked with the smooth efficiency that came from years of training. Sir, incoming transmission from the Raxian flagship, Sunmai reported. She looked at her commander with concern, wondering how he would handle this after losing Jia. Put it through, Do-ha said calmly. The main screen flickered to life, showing Hansol's insectoid face. Commander Kim, Hansol's translator, conveyed his mocking tone. I trust you've had time to consider your situation. Your science section is destroyed. Your shields are damaged, and you've lost your mate. There's no shame in surrender. The bridge crew of the Thunderbolt tensed, expecting an angry response. Instead, Do-ha smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. You know, Do-ha said, his voice conversational. On Earth, we have these creatures called honey badgers. Small animals, but feared by predators 3 times their size. Do you know why? He leaned forward slightly. Because they never give up, and they never forget an enemy. Hansol's mandibles twitched in confusion. Your Earth animals don't concern me, human. They should, Do-ha replied. Because like those honey badgers, we humans learned to survive on a planet that tried to kill us every day. High gravity made our bones dense, our muscles strong. Predators made us cunning. And now, his smile widened. Now you've given me a reason to show you exactly what a human can do when pushed too far. The message from Earth Command arrived just then, appearing on Sunmi's screen. Her eyes widened as she read it. Sir, she called out, Earth Command has responded to our distress call. They've given us full authorization to pursue and engage. All restrictions lifted. Do-ha nodded, never taking his eyes off the Raxian commander. Did you hear that, Hansol? No more diplomatic protocols. No more restrictions. For the first time, uncertainty crept into Hansol's voice. You are still outnumbered, human. 3 ships against 1. 3 targets, Do-ha corrected. Lieutenant Sunma, send them our response. Sunmi's fingers flew across her console. The Thunderbolt's main guns roared to life, sending a precise volley that clipped the wings of Hansol's ship. The Raxian vessel shuddered, its shields flaring bright before partially failing. That, Do-ha said quietly, was for breaking the peace protocols. Another volley struck, more powerful than the first. That was for targeting civilians. His voice remained calm, but his eyes burned with an intensity that made Hansol step back from his own view screen. And what comes next? That's for Jia. Hansol's image disappeared as the Raxian ships began to move, finally realizing the danger they were in. But they were too late. All hands, Do-ha's voice echoed through the ship's comm system. This is your commander. Earth Command has given us hunting rights. These Raxians thought we would be easy prey. They thought that because their technology is more advanced, they could attack us without consequences. He stood from his chair, his Earth-born strength evident in every movement. Let's show them how wrong they are. The crew responded with fierce determination. They had seen their commander's grief transform into something cold and focused, like a blade being forged in ice. Plot an intercept course, Do-ha ordered. They wanted to see what a Deathworlder can do. Let's give them a demonstration they'll never forget. The Thunderbolt's engines flared bright against the darkness of space as it moved to pursue the Raxian ships. In the command chair, Do-ha Kim watched the enemy vessels try to escape, But he knew better. There would be no escape, not after what they had done. The hunt had begun, and a Deathworlder was on the prowl. 3 days after the attack, the Raxian supply ship never saw death coming. One moment it was making a routine cargo run. The next it was drifting in space with its engines dead. Fleen hit. Sun Mai reported from her tactical station on the Thunderbolt. Their power core is offline, just as you predicted, Commander. Duha nodded, watching the disabled ship on his display. In the past 3 days, he had studied Raxian ship designs, learning their weak points. Earth's gravity had given humans not just strength, but sharp minds that excelled at finding weaknesses. "Open a channel," he ordered. When the frightened Raxian cargo crew appeared on screen, Duha spoke clearly and calmly. "This is Commander Kim of the EFS Thunderbolt. Your ship is disabled. You have 10 minutes to reach your escape pods." But we're just a supply ship," the Raxian captain protested. 9 minutes, 50 seconds, Duha replied. "And when you see Commander Hansel, tell him this. I'm learning all your routes, all your patterns. One by one, his supply lines will vanish." The Raxian crew wasted no more time arguing. They fled to their escape pods, leaving their ship and cargo behind. "Their pods are clear," Sun Mai announced. "Should I destroy the ship?" "No." Duha stood from his chair and walked to the viewport. "Leave it floating. Let it be a message. Lieutenant, what's the status of our next target?" Sun Mai pulled up a detailed map on the main screen. Over the past days, she had worked tirelessly to track Raxian shipping patterns. Her youth might have made others doubt her, but Duha had seen her potential. "Supply station in the Mira sector," she reported. "Their ships follow a fixed schedule. Predictable. Lazy." She smiled slightly. "They're not used to being hunted." "And that's their weakness," Duha said. "On Earth, every predator knows you must change your patterns or become prey." He turned to his crew. "Plot a course. We attack at their shift change." As the Thunderbolt moved through space, Duha received a message in his private quarters. It was from Earth Command, showing the reactions across the galaxy to his campaign. The Raxian Empire was in chaos. 3 supply ships disabled, 2 stations cut off, and not a single life lost. They had expected a revenge-driven rampage, but this cold, calculated hunting was something they didn't understand. "Sir," Sun Mai's voice came over the comm. "We're picking up a distress call. It's from one of the disabled ships we hit yesterday." "Play it." The message filled the bridge. "Warning to all Raxian ships. The human vessel moves like a ghost. They strike without warning, disable our ships, and vanish. They're not fighting like civilized beings. They're hunting us like predators," Duha finished quietly. "Because that's what Earth taught us to be." He turned to his crew. "Our ancestors had to outsmart animals that could tear us apart. We learned to track, to plan, to think 3 steps ahead. The Raxians thought their technology made them superior, but they never learned these lessons." The Thunderbolt's sensors picked up new movement. A Raxian patrol responding to the distress calls. "They're trying to protect their supply lines now," Sun Mai observed. "Setting up patrols, changing routes." "Too late," Duha said. "They should have done that before attacking us, before killing Jaya." His voice remained steady, but his hands tightened on the rail. "Now they're just making it more interesting." The crew watched as their commander studied the patrol patterns. They had seen many sides of him in the past days. The precise tactician, the patient hunter, the protective leader. But underneath it all was something that made even his own crew nervous. The calculated fury of a Deathworlder who had been wronged. "Plot an intercept course," he ordered. "But this time, we let them see us first. Let them think they have a chance to fight back." A small smile crossed his face. After all, what's a hunt without a little chase? The Thunderbolt's engines hummed to life as it moved toward its next target. In the darkness of space, a human predator continued its hunt, teaching the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Never underestimate what a Deathworlder will do to avenge their own. Commander Han Solo paced on his bridge, his mandibles clicking rapidly with stress. 5 supply ships lost, 3 stations cut off, and still no end to the humans hunting. His superiors were getting impatient. The human ship has been spotted near the Carina asteroid field, his sensor officer reported. They appear to be damaged from our last encounter. Han Solo's eyes lit up. Finally, a chance to end this. Send all ships to the asteroid field. This time, we trap the hunter. Aboard the Thunderbolt, Duha sat calmly in his command chair, watching the Raxian ships move into position. The damage to his ship was nothing more than cleverly vented plasma and powered-down sections. "Sir," Sun Le called from her station. Trying to hide her smile, 3 Raxian warships are entering the asteroid field. They're spreading out to surround us. Just as expected, Duha nodded. They think we're wounded prey. Show me the asteroid composition readings. Sun Le pulled up the data. Heavy metals throughout the field. Lots of iron and nickel. Perfect for disrupting their sensors. And perfect for what we planned. Duha opened the ship-wide comm. All hands, prepare for gravitational combat maneuvers. Remember your training. Our bodies can handle forces that would knock them out. The Thunderbolt glided deeper into the asteroid field. To the Raxians, it looked like a desperate attempt to hide. They didn't understand that humans had trained for this very scenario. They're closing in, Sun Mai reported. All 3 ships are in position. Duha's lips curved into a slight smile. Launch the magnetic mines. Small dark objects drifted out from the Thunderbolt, hiding among the asteroids. The Raxians, focused on their target, didn't notice them. Commander Han Solo is sending a message, Sun Mai announced. The Raxian commander's face appeared on screen, mandibles spread in what he thought was a victorious smile. Nowhere left to run, human. Your hunt ends here. You still don't understand, do you? Duha replied calmly. On Earth, we have a saying. The cornered prey is the most dangerous. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Begin the maneuver. The Thunderbolt suddenly accelerated, pulling a turn that would have knocked out most alien species. But the human crew, born in Earth's heavy gravity, handled it easily. They spun through the asteroid field at speeds that seemed impossible. Their ships are pursuing, Sun Mai reported, her fingers dancing across her console. They're spreading out to cut us off. And they're right where we want them. Detonate the mines. The magnetic mines exploded, creating powerful electromagnetic pulses. The Raxian ships, their sensitive instruments overwhelmed, began to drift. But the Thunderbolt, protected by special shielding, continued its precise dance through the field. 3 disabled ships, Sun Mai announced proudly. Their engines are dead, and their weapons are offline. Duha stood from his chair. Open a channel to all 3 ships. The faces of 3 different Raxian captains appeared on screen, including Han Solo. All looked shocked at how quickly their trap had turned against them. You thought you could trap a human in 3 dimensions? Duha asked quietly. We evolved on a planet with crushing gravity. Space is freedom to us. Every turn, every spin, every maneuver you think is impossible. We can do them all. You planned this, Han Solo realized. Of course I did. Remember what I said about Earth's predators. We don't just chase. We plan. We think. We set traps. Duha's voice remained calm, but his eyes were hard. Your ships will drift here until help arrives. Use that time to think about why attacking Earth was a mistake. He cut the transmission and turned to his crew. Plot a course out of the asteroid field. Normal speed. He paused. And send the footage to Earth Command. Let them see how a Deathworlder handles space combat. As the Thunderbolt left the asteroid field, leaving 3 helpless Raxian ships behind, the crew couldn't help but feel proud. Their commander had just taught the galaxy another lesson. Earth's gravity hadn't just made them strong. It had made them masters of movement in space. and the hunt was far from over. The news reached the Raxian High Command like a thunderbolt. 3 of their best ships defeated in an asteroid field by a single Earth vessel. The room full of high-ranking officials buzzed with angry clicks and hisses. "This has gone too far," the High Commander said. "Send in the elite fleet. All of it." Back in human space, Duha received the warning from his old friend, Captain Tajun Park of the EFS Stormbreak. The 2 commanders met through encrypted video call. 12 ships, Tajun reported, his face serious on the screen. "Their best crews, their best weapons, they're coming for you, Duha." "Let them come," Duha replied. "But I could use your help, old friend." Tajun smiled. "The Stormbreak is ready. We've been waiting for your call." Within hours, 3 more Earth ships joined the Thunderbolt. Like drops of rain before a storm, they gathered in space, each commanded by humans who understood what was at stake. On the Thunderbolt's bridge, Sunme studied the tactical display. "The Raxian elite fleet is moving fast, sir. They're not even trying to hide." "Why should they?" Duha stood at his viewport, watching as the Earth ships formed up around the Thunderbolt. "They think numbers will save them. Lieutenant, show me their approach pattern." The main screen displayed 12 red dots, moving in perfect formation. Sunme pointed out their strategy. "Standard Raxian attack pattern. They're used to fighting enemies who give up when surrounded." "Then let's show them how Earth fights." Duha opened a channel to all Earth ships. "This is Commander Kim. The Raxians are about to learn why challenging Earth was their biggest mistake. Captain Park, take the left flank. Captain Min, the right. Captain Yoon, watch our backs." The Earth ships moved into position. 4 ships against 12 should have been suicide. But these were Deathworlder crews, trained in Earth's gravity, their bodies and minds honed by evolution to survive against impossible odds. The Raxian fleet appeared in front of them, their ships gleaming with advanced technology. Their commander's voice boomed across all channels. "Earth vessels, this is your only warning. Surrender or be destroyed." Duha's response was simple. "Lieutenant Sunme, show them our first lesson in Earth tactics." The Thunderbolt suddenly accelerated to speeds that would have crushed any non-human crew. The other Earth ships followed, each moving in patterns that seemed to defy physics. The Raxian fleet's perfect formation broke apart as they tried to track targets that moved like water through their fingers. "They're firing," Sunmai reported as energy beams lit up space. "Exactly as expected," Duha smiled. "Captain Park, now." The Stormbreak emerged from behind an Earth ship's sensor shadow, its kinetic weapons firing. Simple metal slugs, accelerated to incredible speeds, tore through the Raxian ship's energy shields as if they weren't there. "Their shields are calibrated for energy weapons," Sunmai explained, watching the damage reports. They never expected physical projectiles. 2 Raxian ships spun out of control, their hulls pierced by human ingenuity. The remaining 10 ships tried to regroup, but the Earth vessels were already moving to their next attack positions. Ancient Earth warriors learned to fight larger forces by dividing them, Duha said to his crew as they executed another impossible turn. "Space just gives us more directions to use that strategy." The battle turned into a dance of death. Earth ships used maneuvers that the Raxians had thought impossible, their human crews shrugging off forces that would have knocked out any other species. Each attack was calculated, precise, using the enemy's strength against them. By the time the Raxian fleet retreated, 5 of their ships were crippled, and 3 more had suffered heavy damage. Not a single Earth ship had been lost. "Send a message to their high command," Duha ordered as he watched the enemy flee. "Tell them this: you sent your best ships to hunt 1 Deathworlder. Instead, you found 4. How many more do you think Earth has?" The stars shone silently as the Earth ships regrouped. The galaxy was learning a harsh lesson. When you fight humans, you don't just fight their technology or their ships. You fight millions of years of evolution on a planet that taught them to never, ever give up. Commander Hansol's hands shook as he read the battle reports. 5 ships lost, 3 heavily damaged, and his elite fleet scattered by just 4 Earth vessels. His superiors were not pleased. The humans must have some weakness, he muttered, pacing his new command bridge. His original flagship still drifted in the asteroid field, a reminder of his failure. "Sir," his tactical officer spoke up nervously, "there's a civilian mining colony in Sector 7. If we strike there..." Han Sol's mandibles clicked rapidly. He knew it was wrong, knew it violated every rule of warfare, but he was desperate. "Prepare the banned weapons, the sonic disruptors." On the Thunderbolt, Sun Li's alert system suddenly blared. "Commander, Raxian ships are approaching the Helios mining colony. They're carrying sonic weapons." Duha's face hardened. Sonic disruptors were banned because they caused horrible deaths, vibrating victims apart from the inside. "How many civilian workers on that colony?" "Over 3,000, sir, mostly miners and their families." Duha opened a channel to the other Earth ships. "All vessels, maximum speed to Helios. They're targeting civilians again." His voice was calm, but everyone heard the steel beneath it. The 4 Earth ships pushed their engines beyond safety limits. Their human crews ignored the crushing G-forces, their Earth-evolved bodies handling stresses that would kill most aliens. "We're not going to make it in time," Sun Mai reported, her voice tight with worry. "Yes, we will." Duha turned to his engineering chief. "Redirect power from life support to engines. We can handle thin air for a while. We're built for it." The Thunderbolt surged forward, leaving the other Earth ships behind. Inside, the air grew thin as power was diverted to engines. The crew breathed harder but kept working. Their ancestors had climbed mountains with less oxygen than this. Han Sol's ships reached the colony first. They moved into position, preparing to fire their banned weapons. Han Sol himself felt sick at what he was about to do, but he saw no choice. "Sir," his sensor officer shouted, "something's coming in fast. Too fast. It's not possible." The Thunderbolt dropped out of faster-than-light travel dangerously close to the colony, its hull glowing from the stress. By all rights, the ship should have torn itself apart. "Target their weapon ports," Duha ordered, his voice steady despite the thin air. "Time to show them another Earth lesson. What happens when you back a predator into a corner?" The Thunderbolt moved like a living thing, its human crew ignoring the physical strains that would have incapacitated any other species. Their shots were precise, destroying the sonic weapons before they could fire. Han Sol watched in horror as his last advantage was stripped away. How are they still fighting in those conditions? The answer came in Duha's transmission to all ships. "You think this is harsh? On Earth, we have warriors who climb mountains where the air is so thin, most species would pass out. We have swimmers who can hold their breath for minutes. We evolved to survive whatever our world threw at us." The other Earth ships arrived, surrounding Han Sol's forces, but Duha wasn't finished. "You targeted civilians again," he continued, his voice deadly quiet. "First my wife, now these miners. Every time you do this, you prove why humans had to become what we are." The battle that followed was short but fierce. The Raxian ships, already damaged from previous fights, couldn't match the precision and power of the Earth vessels. Even with their systems trained and their air thin, the human crews fought with remarkable skill. When it was over, Han Sol's ship was the only Raxian vessel still functional, and barely at that. "Listen carefully," Du had transmitted to Han Sol. "You're alive because I want you to deliver a message. Your sonic weapons are destroyed. Your fleet is in ruins. And now everyone knows what happens when you push humans too far." As Han Sol's crippled ship limped away from the colony, the miners sent out a message of thanks. Duha listened to it quietly, thinking of Jiva and all the other civilians who had been targeted. The galaxy was learning. Humans didn't just survive on their Deathworld. They mastered it, and now they were teaching that lesson to the stars. The message arrived on every screen in the Thunderbolt. A direct challenge from Commander Han Sol. After the failure at the mining colony, the Raxian commander had finally broken. "Face me, Commander Kim." Han Sol's voice shook with desperation. "One ship against one ship. No more running. No more tricks." Duha watched the message replay, his expression calm. 2 weeks of constant battle had changed him. He looked leaner, harder, like a blade sharpened by use. "It's a trap," Sun Mai said from her station. "Our scans show 3 ships hiding behind the moon of that meeting place," he suggested. "Of course it's a trap," Duha replied. "But it's time to end this." He opened a channel to the other Earth ships. "Captain Park, position your ships to block their reinforcements. This fight is mine." The Thunderbolt moved alone to the meeting point, a stretch of empty space near a dead star. Han Sol's new flagship waited there, its weapons ready. "Commander," Sun Mai spoke up, her fingers moving across her tactical screen. "I've been studying their ship design. Their new flagship has a weak point." She showed him the data. "They rely too much on energy shields. One solid hit here, with old-fashioned metal weapons." Duha nodded. "Sometimes the simplest solutions work best. Prepare the kinetic cannons." Han Sol's face appeared on the main screen. The Raxian commander looked terrible, his usual proud posture bent by failure. "You've destroyed my career, human. My reputation. Everything." "You did that yourself," Duha replied calmly. "When you broke the peace, when you killed innocents, when you murdered my wife." "She was just one human," Han Sol screamed, his translator barely keeping up with his rage. "Look what you've done in return. 12 ships lost. Trade routes ruined, all for one female. You still don't understand." Duha's voice remained steady. "On Earth, we learned loyalty from pack animals, love from mammals that mate for life, vengeance from creatures that never forget an enemy. Everything that makes us dangerous, we learned from our world." The 2 ships faced each other in space. Han Sol fired first, his energy weapons lighting up the darkness. But the Thunderbolt moved like a living thing, dodging in ways that seemed impossible. "Now, Lieutenant," Duha ordered. Sun Mi's plan worked perfectly. While Han Sol focused on their front shields, the Thunderbolt spun in a move that would have knocked out any non-human crew. Their kinetic weapons fired, sending simple metal shells through the exact weak point she had found. Han Sol's flagship shuddered as vital systems failed. His backup ships tried to jump in, but the other Earth vessels were waiting. The trap had become a cage. "How?" Han Sol's voice cracked as his ship died around him. "How did you beat our technology, our numbers, everything?" "Because you forgot the most important lesson about Deathworlders," Duha answered. "We don't just survive. We learn. We adapt. We overcome." He stood from his chair. "Lieutenant, target their bridge." "Wait." Han Sol raised his hands. "I surrender. By all our laws, you must accept." "Like you accepted the peace protocol?" Duha asked quietly. But then he nodded. "Yet you're right. We follow rules, even when our enemies don't." He turned to Sun Mi. "Disable their engines instead. Let them drift here as a reminder." The Thunderbolt's final shot left Han Sol's ship powerless, floating in space. Around them, the other Earth ships had driven off or disabled the backup vessels. "Send a message to the Raxian High Command," Duha ordered. "Tell them their commander is here, alive, waiting to be rescued. Tell them Earth accepts their surrender." He paused. "And tell them to remember this. Every human they meet is a Deathworlder. Every single one of us learned to survive on a planet that makes their worlds look tame." As rescue ships approached Han Sol's drifting vessel, Duha looked out at the stars. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans weren't just another spacefaring race. They were the children of Earth, forged by evolution into something uniquely dangerous. And now everyone knew why you should never target a Deathworlder's family. 1 month after the final battle, Duha stood before the Earth Fleet Command. The room was packed with officers and diplomats from across the galaxy, all eager to hear from the commander who had changed interstellar politics forever. The Raxian Empire has signed the new peace treaty, Admiral Lee announced to the crowd. They've agreed to all terms, including the Deathworlder Protocol for diplomatic relations with Earth. Duha listened quietly, his dress uniform adorned with new medals. Beside him stood Lieutenant Sunmei, also promoted for her role in the campaign. Captain Park and the other ship commanders sat in the front row, their presence a reminder of Earth's unified strength. Commander Kim, a Raxian diplomat, spoke up, his voice humble. Our people wish to know, how many ships did you actually have ready to fight us? Hundreds, Duha replied calmly, but I only needed 4 to teach the lesson. He paused. The real question is, how many humans are there who could do what we did? And the answer is, all of us. The room fell silent as his words sank in. Every human was a potential Commander Kim. Every human carried the strength of Earth in their bones. In his private office later, Duha looked at the picture of Jia on his desk. Sunmai entered with a data tablet, her steps quiet with respect. Sir, the reports from across the galaxy are interesting, she said. 3 different empires have canceled their planned invasions of Earth colonies. The Raxian Empire is completely reorganizing their military approach. And she smiled slightly. They're all studying Earth wildlife now, learning about honey badgers and wolves. Duha asked, a hint of amusement in his voice. And bears, lions, even squirrels. Sunmei showed him the data. They want to understand what made us who we are. They're looking in the wrong place, Duha said softly. It wasn't just the animals. It was Earth itself. The gravity that made us strong. The changing weather that made us adaptable. The need to climb mountains, cross oceans, survive deserts. He stood and walked to his window, looking out at the Earth below. Every human carries that heritage. Every one of us is born from millions of years of survival on a world that never made it easy. New reports came in daily. The Thunderbolts campaign had become required study at military academies across the galaxy. The term human tactics now meant something unpredictable and dangerous. But most importantly, a new respect had emerged for Earth and its people. The Galactic Council wants you to speak at their next session, Sunmai reported. They're creating new laws about attacking civilian targets, calling it the Kim Protocol. Duha nodded. The laws wouldn't bring Jaya back, but they might protect other families, other species from similar losses. A message flashed on Sunmai's tablet. Sir, they found the last piece of wreckage from the original attack. They're bringing it to Earth for a memorial. Duha touched Jaya's picture gently. She would have liked that. She always said the galaxy needed to learn to live in peace. He smiled sadly. She just never expected the lesson to come this way. The new peace wasn't just about fear of human strength. It was about understanding. Other species now realized that humans weren't just another spacefaring race. They were survivors, adaptable and resourceful, who carried their Deathworld's lessons in their very DNA. What will you do now, sir? Sunmai asked. Keep teaching, Duha replied. Every diplomatic mission, every peaceful contact, every trade agreement. They're all chances to show that humans can be more than warriors. We learned cooperation from our world too, after all. As the sun set over Earth, ships from a dozen species orbited peacefully above. Each crew had heard the story of Commander Kim and the Thunderbolt. Each understood the lesson. Earth's children carried their world's strength with them to the stars. And if anyone ever forgot that lesson, there would always be someone to remind them why you should never target a Deathworlder commander. The end.